So moving into market research, which is one of the very first things that you really need to start thinking about in your pre-planning stage, because if you don't get your market research right, you can really end up in trouble. You need to understand what your market is and how you are going to kind of satisfy that market, and also understand how big your market is, what sort of people are going to be shopping with you, the sorts of products that they want to do. I see a lot of people kind of asking, oh, what should I stock, what should I do? If you've done your market research right, these kind of questions are really easy to answer. So it's really important to get your market research right from the very beginning, and it's one of the first things that you should really be thinking about. So surveys, a lot of people, I see a lot of people kind of, they think of market research and they think, I will do a survey and I will get my answers to my results. Now surveys are quite an interesting point, because if you don't do them properly, they really are just not very valuable at all. There's loads of data in terms of surveys as to the types of people that fill them out, the types of answers that you're going to get, and you know, the people who are proactive and fill them out will answer in a particular way. They're not necessarily your customers, they could be friends, depending on how you're kind of putting out your survey. Are you actually getting the right people? And even if you're going to be standing on the corner of the shop and asking people actual physical questions, the people who are going to stop and answer those questions, again, they're a particular type of people. So you end up getting not really very accurate results. And if you look at big survey companies, national survey companies that survey kind of correctly, they have a very particular formula in the way that they do survey. So they take random samples and they send people into, like, picked completely randomly by things like postcodes and areas, and they'll just have like random pickers, and they will go and kind of put pressure on these people, like give them incentives and things to try and get them to come and actually take part in the survey. So it may not be that these are the sorts of people that would necessarily want to do a survey, but they're kind of getting roped into it, as it were. The way that you ask the questions is also quite critical. You can ask them in a particular way that can be leading or can be particular, like if you say, would you like a zero waste shop in your area? Well, most people probably say yes. Sounds great, I'd love it. So you get like, oh, 90% of people have said they would love a zero waste shop in my area, but you haven't really asked that question correctly in the first place, because you've kind of led them into saying, is this something positive? You kind of edit it from a positive point of view. So unless you've kind of really studied surveys and you really understand research, and you've got a degree in maybe market research, then maybe you can formulate your own survey. The other option is you can hire like survey companies to do them for you, but again, the results aren't always really that accurate, and you need quite a large sample, so the cost that's going to give you at this stage in your business is actually probably not really worth the effort. Of course, I'm not discouraging surveys, you can of course do them, but I would just recommend that you really take any of the information that you get within the surveys as a pinch of salt, because you will probably find that the survey is very positive towards it, because you've probably shared it in places where there are zero waste, people that are already interested in the movement, and you're not really capturing your area and your town very effectively, unless you're actually going to go maybe door to door and interview kind of a random sample in the street. Then maybe you've got a slightly better survey, but again, then you've got to think about your questions and the way you're leading them. So there's quite a lot to think about in getting that survey right. So we don't really recommend doing surveys as a form of market research for your business, because they tend to be a bit of a waste of time, your results aren't really accurate, and they don't really help you formulate an awful lot of information. I mean, you may gather some email addresses from them, so you might find that there is some benefit to doing surveys. They certainly do boost your ego and make you feel really good about doing the shop, because you tend to get more positivity in them than perhaps negativity, and people kind of filling out surveys often want to, especially when it's a new venture or a new business, they want to be really supportive. So that's kind of the overview of surveys. Like I said, not something we really recommend, but there's no harm in doing them, and you can get some benefit, but just be very wary of your results.